American Symphony. It's currently on Netflix. It's a documentary and it has audio description. So, what's it about? Let's talk about it. As you may recall, there was Jean-Baptiste who was having quite a year a couple of years ago, and with his 11 Grammy nominations, coming off of working with Stephen Colbert and just living his best life. To be totally honest, I don't watch Stephen Colbert, and I didn't listen to his music, so I didn't know who he was until all of a sudden it was like, oh my god, he's in my face all the time. But this is an interesting documentary about him and about how someone with a music background different than that of a traditional classical musician would go about making sort of classical music. And then it kind of evolves into something completely different. It becomes a story about two people on two very different journeys. One person who's experiencing probably the highest of highs in their life, and one person who's experiencing the lowest of lows. As Jean-Baptiste continues to experience, acclaim, his wife finds out that she has cancer and needs treatment, and he can't always be there. Lots of conversations with him on the phone while she's somewhere, and she's encouraging him to just, keep on keeping on, sort of. And that's sort of where the journey takes you. So it could be a very emotional roller coaster. You could say that it's a Jean-Baptiste documentary, but that would be kind of sort of undercutting it a little bit. It's really about anyone who is in a position where they can't be there for the person that they need to be there for. And it's incredibly relatable. And I understand why this has had all of the praise and acclaim, because it reminds us that even when we are, even when you have all of the money in the world, or all of the fame in the world, all the whatever, that there are still these basic life challenges that affect all of us. And to see him go through that is, I think, what makes American Symphony a really strong documentary. There are some times in the film where I was like, I don't know that we need to be here in this moment. And I also thought about, because it really seems to capture a lot of the moments before her diagnosis is, I guess, as set in stone or as grim as she is. So I'm like, I wonder at what point, they decided to go with this. Sometimes I think documentaries are interesting because the person who has decided this is the project I want to take on, once they get there and they get intimate with whatever their topic is, they can actually start to see that there's another story that's more interesting. Like, you think you've done your research and you think that this is the story you're going to tell, and then something else happens and you realize along the way that maybe that's the story that you're supposed to be here to tell. And I think that's kind of what happened with American Symphony. I have a feeling that this really was like a music documentarian who was hoping to capture this special moment for Jean-Baptiste, working in classical music, not as a classically trained musician. And meanwhile, this other thing is happening, and they realize how special it is, and how just profound of a connection this film will have with those who have been in similar situations. So it's a very well done documentary, but there are some times where every once in a while I was like, I don't know why we need to be here. There's a scene where Jean-Baptiste is getting his shoe shined, and I don't know. I was like, I don't know if this, like, does this humanize him? It's such an old-timey thing. I didn't even know there still were shoe shiners this day and age. And he's getting his shoe shined in the middle of COVID. And I get the idea that if you see a shoe shiner and you're like, man, that guy probably doesn't have a lot of work. and you want to give him some money, but we're not presented with that opportunity. We're just kind of presented with Jean-Baptiste sitting there getting his shoe shined. And it just, I don't know. I didn't really know what to do with that scene. I was like, why is he getting why is this a thing? Why are we here? And it's just him kind of, and the guy doesn't know who he is. Plus he's wearing like a face mask at the time because it's in the middle of COVID. So he doesn't know who Jean-Baptiste is and doesn't recognize him. And seems like kind of an older gentleman and probably didn't watch the Grammys, you know? So we're sort of having an awkward conversation. Then some like white people walk by and they're like, oh my God, it's you. We loved you on the girl. So much showmanship. So much showmanship. So I was like, maybe that's why they kept it. I don't know why they kept the scene. And so that's the one scene I would love to ask the director. I'd be like, why did you keep this? It feels so weird and out of place because it doesn't really provide any more context. It doesn't really further your narrative. It doesn't really do anything. It just makes it look like Jean-Baptiste likes to get his shoe shined. Or a reminder to Americans that there's still people who are shining shoes out there in the world. Most people don't even buy shoes to get their shoes shined. There's a point in the documentary where, through the audio description, it points out that Jean-Baptiste notices that his conductor is wearing Air Jordans. So what's this Air Jordan guy gonna do? Is he gonna go up and get a shoe shined at the shoe shine? No, he's not gonna. So anyway, it's weird. It's like, so the sneaker culture has sort of put a little bit of a kibosh also on needing shoe shined. Anyway, just like a totally different tangent, but that's where my brain shouldn't be going there in the middle of this documentary. I shouldn't be sitting in the middle of shoe shining segment, which went on for a few minutes. It was at least like a two-minute segment. And I was just like, why are we here? It's the kind of thing that you would flash an image of and be like, oh, look, there he is getting his shoes shined. And we'd be like, oh, people still shine shoes. And then we'd move on, but we wouldn't sit in the moment. It was the one directorial choice where I was just like, I don't get this. I do not understand why we're here and why we're staying here. Because he didn't, Jean-Baptiste doesn't really say anything revelatory in the moment. You know, he just kind of talks with the shoe shine guy a little bit. And he's nice to him. He's not a dick. But there's a camera on him. Is he really going to be a dick? Like, no. I mean, they point that out. Like, the shoe shine guy is like, there's a camera following you. He's like, yeah, that's my friend. He's following me around. And so, I mean, he fully acknowledges that he knows there's a presence of camera. So I don't think he's the type, Jean-Baptiste, to just, suddenly, like, I don't know, smash a plate over the guy's head or anything like that and run away. But at the same time, they're both like, yeah, there's a camera there. Oh, all right, well, just gonna keep on keeping on, doing my thing while you're shooting me on camera for some reason. Anyway, so, but yeah, for the most part, it's entirely relatable, except for, I guess it's relatable to like the 10 people who still get their shoe shined. I have no idea, but it brought them in. They were like, "Whoa, Jean-Baptiste is one of us." Yeah, he is. He gets a shoe shined. So, and the music. There's a long segment at the end where we get to sort of hear the titular American symphony. And it's really nice. It's really nice. So, it's interesting to hear that. And of course we live in a world now where, everyone's making fun of Andre 3000 for his flute album. I loved Leslie Jones's rant on The Daily Show. I hope Andre saw that. Yeah, it's interesting, to want to do that and to want to be creative as an artist, and some of the stuff he says throughout the documentary, especially during his Grammy speech about artistry, and there is no one true best artist, that we're all creating something. And of course it's easy to say that when you're the one that won the trophy. It's, I guess that same statement wouldn't ring true to somebody who didn't win the trophy. Like, there is no winner. There's just, we all make art. And you got to make sure you say it like way in advance, like before the nominations are announced. That's the kind of shit that you say like when you're out of contention. Anyway, so yeah, it's a good documentary. It's not my favorite documentary of the year, but it does a good job of speaking to, and I think it will speak to certain people who will like this documentary even more than me. I just don't have this relationship with somebody, and I think the people who do, it will resonate 10,000 times more. So if you're that type of person who's ever been in a relationship with anybody, and they've been through something where you haven't been able to be there for them, or you've been across country, I had a friend that took a job up in Alaska, and then found out his wife had cancer down here in Florida, and he couldn't even get back right away. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was one of those things where he wanted to be there right immediately, and just couldn't get back right away. So you feel those moments, and I think that's what's beautifully captured here. The audio description, written by Liz Gutman and narrated by Sri Gordon and done by the lovely people at International Digital Center, is really well done, especially for a documentary. Of course, this is not a talking head documentary. This is not one where people constantly are popping their heads up and being like, I love working with Jean-Baptiste. Jean-Baptiste is a man. Jean-Baptiste's music, it turns into style. And no, it doesn't. No, that doesn't happen here. So it's very much more of a voyeuristic look at this life, a very fly on the wall type of thing, which allows a lot more for the narration to really shine through. And I think Liz and Sri made the best use of the time on camera. Like I said, I know the conductor was wearing Air Jordans. It's such a random thing, because it wasn't even Jean-Baptiste wearing Air Jordans. It was his conductor for the piece he was working on. So little details like that helped to shape the piece even more, and really brought it together. So I'm gonna give American Symphony an A-. It's not my favorite documentary of the year, but I think it's a really strong documentary, and I wouldn't be surprised if this got nominated. But then again, the documentary field, I also would not be surprised if it didn't get nominated, because the people who nominate Oscar documentary, best documentary feature, I think are a bunch of crackheads, because they seem to pick films that nobody watches for the sake of the fact that nobody watched them. And they don't like to pick things that are popular or that people like. It was this time last year where pretty much everybody was like, oh yeah, well, it's going to be Goodnight Oppie. It's going to be David Bowie's documentary. It's going to be those, and then it ended up not being any of those. So they didn't even make the short list. So yeah. If this makes the short list, I think that's a win. That's a win for Netflix for even getting this film into the short list category. But we'll see. So that's it for me today. Please click that subscribe button. I'm trying to break 200 subscribers this year, and I don't know. I look stuck. I look stuck so close. I feel like I tripped and fell in front of the finish line, and I can see the finish line. I'm right there, guys. I'm so close. Anyway, I have a website, macthemovieguy.com. You can follow me on X, Twitter, or Threads at macthemovieguy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what has audio description, where you can watch it. And you can go to the ADNA.org, where you can look up Liz and Sri and see both of them on there and see what other projects they've done. So do it. I will review something else for you guys, and see you on the other side.